Welcome back to my views and news. Some news stories for you. Important news stories from Tigray. Getachew Reda, Tigray interim president, is furious at US diplomats. Fiery Getachew was back in action today when he shared a message about US diplomats' visit to Alamata. Getachew has been very contained. He's been pulling his punches after he was appointed as Tigray interim president in March. But today he was very critical of US diplomats. What did he say? Details for you. Secondly, viewers, Oromia region of Ethiopia, where a town administrator has been killed. He was abducted and then his dead body was found. Who abducted him? Who demanded ransom for his release? Thirdly, Minister of Peace of Ethiopia was in Tigray 2 days ago, Taye Dendea, who has been very critical of TPLF. You remember, in the 2-year-long war, Taye Dendea was one of the staunchest critics of TPLF. He compared TPLF to a cancer, I remember once. So he wanted total disbandment of TPLF. But he was in Mekelle 2 days ago. What did he say there? Reportedly, he faced some criticism too at a program at a hotel in Mekelle. Fourthly, viewers, Yemen is not happy with Eritrea. The two countries have fought over islands in the past. Yemeni Fisheries Ministry has issued a statement saying Eritrean military has detained some Yemeni fishermen. One was injured in attack by Eritrean military. And lastly, Sudan, unfortunate development. Jeddah peace talks have been suspended. US State Department just a few minutes ago made this announcement. And lastly, CRP, Central Reserve Police Headquarters, was attacked by Rapid Support Force members around 24 hours ago. RSF tried to take control of this base of CRP. What happened? Firstly, viewers, Tigray President was on fire today. Getachew Reda. What happened yesterday? What happened on Wednesday? On Wednesday, we know that some US diplomats visited Alamata. Alamata is in southern Tigray, Raya zone. Raya, southern Tigray, is a disputed territory between Tigray and Amhara regions. The zone is under the control of Amhara region-backed government. Tigray says government is illegal. The government in Raya and Volga is illegal. And before the war broke out in November 2020, this area was part of Tigray. In the first round of fighting, Tigray lost Raya. In July 2021, Tigray retook Raya. But then in the third round of fighting, Tigray again lost Raya. So I think in September last year, Amhara forces, Ethiopian military, retook Koram, Alamata, Raya. And since then, an Amhara appointed mayor has been working in Alamata. We have seen several protests in Alamata, in Koram. Protests in support of this zone being part of the Amhara region. And when US diplomats visited Alamata yesterday, we saw big demonstrations by the people who said that the zone should be part of Amhara, not part of Tigray. That budget for Alamata, budget for Raya should be included in Amhara budget, not in Tigray budget. Tigray has been rejecting these protests. Tigray has been saying that the protests are held by people from the Amhara region, people from Wollo and Gondar are brought into Alamata to protest. So, US diplomats visited Alamata yesterday. Diplomats not from Washington but from US Embassy in Ethiopia. And then today Getachew tweeted. He used very strong words. He condemned the visit by US diplomats to Alamata. He said a delegation of US diplomats from US Embassy visited Alamata. What was this delegation doing? God knows what they were doing. But he said that they were socializing publicly with those who are illegally occupying Tigray territories. Extremists who are in control of Tigray territories were socializing with American diplomats in Alamata. And he said that this move by US diplomats from Addis Ababa to visit Alamata is like sanctioning the occupation of Tigray territories by Amhara extremist forces. You see, very strong language. And then he talked about US government, that US government's principled stand is that the issue should be resolved through dialogue. But the seasoned diplomats in garish display visited Alamata, and they showed their complicity in illegal occupation of Tigray territories. It is unacceptable, he concluded. You see that Getachew is very angry. He is the old Getachew, by the way. Today he looked like old Getachew when he was Tigray President's spokesperson. When he was the spokesperson, he used to speak like that, unrestrained, very fiery. But after he was elected, as he was chosen as the president, interim president, he became restrained. But today he was on fire. Secondly, he criticized US diplomats as if US diplomats should not visit contested areas. They should seek approval from Tigray government. I think Getachew's reaction is, I wouldn't say it's exaggerated, but I think he should have been more restrained. US diplomats can visit any area of Ethiopia. It does not mean that the diplomats approved that the area, the zone should remain under Amhara control. Talks are held to US-backed talks between TPLF and Ethiopian federal government. And back then US was accused of supporting TPLF. Still talks were held. US does not need approval from Tigray government, from Getachew for visiting Raya or Volkayt. I think these visits can be helpful because so far stalemate is there between Tigray and Amhara. How will the stalemate be resolved? Through dialogue. And if US diplomats visit both regions, Tigray, Amhara, and Alamata too, and then they try to mediate, and they try to bring the parties to the table, what's wrong with that? No problem, it should happen. So Getachew's reaction for me is a little surprising. I think he should welcome, if he cannot welcome, he should at least accept that US has right to visit any area. No statement from any diplomat which is against Tigray's position on Raya or Volkayt. Rather, we have been seeing statements from US State Department asking Eritrean military Amhara forces to withdraw from Tigray territories. But he should give some space to American diplomats to be in touch with all parties so that US could play a role in this ongoing stalemate. Secondly, viewers, a town administrator has been killed in the Oromia region of Ethiopia. Head of a district in southwest Shava was abducted by unknown attackers. His name is Bakele Kacha. 2 days ago, Bakele Kacha was abducted. He was serving as a Southern Sodo district head. He was kidnapped from his residence, and some say a ransom of 10 million Ethiopian birrs was demanded for his release. Ransom was not paid, and yesterday his dead body was found. He's been shot dead, and shot dead in southwest Shava zone of Oromia. People are pointing fingers towards Ola, that Oromo Liberation Army is behind the assassination, kidnapping of Bakele Kacha. Kidnapping for ransom is increasing in the Oromia region. Extrajudicial killings at the hands of security forces of OLA supporters, and then assassinations of government officials by OLA fighters in return. Kidnapping for ransom incidents involving armed factions, including Ola, on the rise. Just 3 to 4 days ago, dozens of bus drivers, car drivers were abducted in North Shore zone of the Oromia region. Ransom demanded. A few days ago, sugar factory workers were abducted in Horogodoro. Ransom was demanded for their release. Before that, a few months ago, cement factory workers were abducted. Ransom was demanded. And now, mayor of a city abducted, ransom demanded, ransom unpaid, shot dead. Who is behind these kidnappings for ransom? People name Ola. That Ola has hand in these kidnapping for ransom. Ola denies. There are some groups operating in those areas where Ola has significant presence. So, which other groups are involved in these kidnappings for ransom? No one knows. But some Ola members have been involved in kidnapping for ransom because it's their source of funding. They receive money from diaspora. They rob banks sometimes, and sometimes they kidnap people. They receive ransom. Third viewers, Taye Dendea, Oromia region's member of parliament of House of Representatives, and now serving Minister of Peace, was in Mekelle, Tigray's capital, 2 days ago. At a hotel in Tigray, a conference was held on rehabilitation of Tigray's economy. The agenda was about investment, about reconstruction in Tigray. He was there, he delivered a speech at a hotel. Getachew spoke too, Debretsion spoke as well. Taye Dendea was very critical of TPLF in the 2-year-long war. I did several videos, I remember. He used very strong words against TPLF several times in the last 2 years. He was in favor of complete disbandment of TPLF. But 2 days ago, he was all praise for Tigray, people of Tigray, Tigray leadership, and he said that what happened shouldn't have happened. That all should have tried to restrain themselves. So no one should have tried to spread hate, but it happened. He showed regret. And Dr. Johannes, who is from Tigray interim government, I think, in his speech, he criticized indirectly criticized Taye Dendea, that due to hate speech by some people, people in Tigray lost their lives. People should be held accountable, those who spread hatred, those who spread hate. So overall, it's a good development that those who were bloodthirsty for each other, they were seen at the same table 2 days ago in Mekelle. If Taye Dendea and TPLF can make peace, why can't Fano and PM Abiy PM Abiy's representatives sit at the same table? Why can't Shimalis and Sikandar sit at the same table? If Taye Dendea and Getachew can sit at the table and talk. That is the way forward. But lessons have not been learned. Believe me, my analysis is that so far Ethiopian leadership has not learned lessons. They made peace because they were tired of fighting. They were not in a position to continue the war. They lost public support, shortage of funds, economy, etc. It's not that they realized that they were on the wrong track. No. So that is why conflicts are continuing. A good development that Taye Dendea was in Tigray. Fourthly, Eritrea. Yemen's government has leveled accusations against Eritrean government. Yemen, across the sea, Eritrean, a neighbor, and Eritrea have been involved in disputes in the past over the status, the ownership of Hanish Island, Zakur Hanish Island, and the two fought as well over the ownership of these islands. Though in 1999 a decision was made, but still clashes happen. Clashes happen about the area where fishermen from two sides conduct their fishing activities. Yemeni Ministry of Fisheries says that around a week ago, around 6 days ago, several Yemeni fishermen were arrested by Eritrean security forces. Eritrean Navy attacked Yemeni fishing boats. One fisherman was injured. His eye was injured in the attack by Eritrean military. Several Yemeni fishermen are still in the custody of Eritrean Navy. In May, at the end of May, Eritrea released 166 Yemeni fishermen who remained in Eritrea in detention for several weeks, but they were released at the end of May. So it means that the dispute is over EEZ. That is what technically the technical term is used. What is Eritrean EEZ and what is Yemeni EEZ around the islands? It's very likely that Yemeni fishing boats enter Eritrean waters. That is why Eritrean Navy takes action. What is needed is some sort of mechanism involving the two sides to patrol the area, to patrol their water, so that the two sides, their fishing boats don't enter other sides' waters. Dispute, not new one, ongoing. Eritrean fishing boats are sometimes seized by Yemeni government, and in most cases Eritrean government seizes Yemeni fishing boats as well. No response from Eritrean government so far. Lastly, we are Sudan. Peace talks have completely collapsed. Just a few minutes ago, Molly Fee from US State Department East Africa Bureau confirmed that US had adjourned Jeddah peace talks. In Jeddah, US and Saudi Arabia were leading talks between Rapid Support Forces and Sudanese army. Several rounds were held. 4 ceasefires were announced in black and white after talks in Jeddah. A 7-day ceasefire, a 5-day ceasefire which collapsed on day 2, then a 24-hour ceasefire implemented, then a 3-day ceasefire which collapsed at on the last day, 3rd day of the ceasefire, when Sudanese Air Force conducted some airstrikes on a building in Khartoum. Malifi says that the format adopted in Jeddah was not working. That is why talks had been adjourned. She asked international community, she asked EU, UK to join hands with US in imposing sanctions on Sudanese warring parties. Last week, more than a week ago, two Sudanese military companies, two companies of rapid support forces were put under sanctions by US government. US announced to impose visa restrictions on some Sudanese military and RSF commanders, but no names were made public by American government. Now, US wants EU and UK to support the US in imposing sanctions on Sudanese warring parties, but talks have collapsed. Secondly, CRP's base was attacked by rapid support forces on Wednesday. Central Reserve Police is a paramilitary force in Sudan. Its members entered Khartoum in March, and they were not actively supporting Sudanese army. But gradually we have seen that CRP has been involved in the fight against rapid support forces in Khartoum, Bari, Madarman, though they are not leading offensives. Rapid support forces yesterday launched an offensive on CRP's base in Khartoum Central, but the videos which are being shared indicate that RSF's offensive on CRP's base has been repelled. RSF trying to get close to engineering corps towards armored corps, it is trying to advance to, and Sudanese military general command headquarters is also its target, but so far rapid support forces and CRP are defending. CRP are called Abu Tira as well. They were called Abu Tira and CRP too. When CRP entered Khartoum, if you remember, rapid support forces opposed their deployment to Khartoum. RSF said that CRP should not be involved in this fight. And most of CRP recruits are from Kordofan and Darfur. Like RSF fighters, most of them are from Darfur and Kordofan. So if there is direct fight between CRP and rapid support forces, it could be a complex situation. Complex for rapid support forces to handle. It could be Darfurian Arabs against Arabs of CRP who are from Darfur. Let's see. So far, attack on CRP's base in Khartoum has been repelled. RSF could not take control of this base. Thank you for watching.